Hi, my name's Jenny and I'm the project officer for our National Lottery Heritage Fund project going on at the museum. So it's called the Documenting Northern Lincolnshire's History project. For that project, we have been working with a wonderful group of volunteers from the community on a really ambitious documentation project. Our goal for the project was to look at how we can better document and digitise a lot of the ephemera and the photographs from our local history collection.
So I'm Rose Nicholson, I'm the Heritage Manager for North Lincolnshire Museums. So we really wanted to do this project because we knew we had this brilliant collection that wasn't really well documented. We sort of knew what we had, but we didn't know a great deal about the stories that were in that collection. And we really wanted to connect the communities around the museum with that collection that we had.
So in order to do that, we recruited a team of volunteers from the local community. And we were really keen for this project to work with different audiences. So we wanted to work with young people, and we wanted to work with adults with additional needs, and we wanted to ensure that we were representing the community amongst our volunteer team. Throughout the project, we've been focusing on documenting and digitising the collections, but we've also been getting involved in community collaborations. We worked on an exhibition that we had in the main gallery for 6 months that was called Stories from the Stores. And we also wanted to look for stories that we could share from the collections that perhaps hadn't been represented in the past. So we came up with a number of different stories that we shared in the exhibition, but we also shared stories through different outputs, such as we shared Discover articles. We've been looking at how we can reinterpret some of the displays in our permanent galleries, and we did a few different collaborations with local creatives as well.
I'm Erin Wilson-Clark. I'm a local artist and I've worked with the museum makers on the Museum Makers Trail Guide and the Museum Makers Volunteers on the Farming Trail Guide as well. So the Museum Makers Trail Guide was based on the artefacts in the museum. They illustrated their favourite artefacts. I went away and kind of illustrated over their artefacts, digitised them and then put them into a booklet. That is available in the museum to look at, and you can find all the different artefacts that are their favourites. And then the Farming Trail Guide was, I got faces of the museum makers volunteers and I illustrated them, put them into like a cartoony form in my art style, illustrated lots of farm animals that they listed. I think it was about 20 animals. And then I illustrated the map and just various things on the farm.
We've had some collections looked at that we haven't looked at in any great depth ourselves because they were just too large, something that we never got to working on. Like one of the examples is the Fletcher's archive donation. So in 2022, a local family contacted us and said that John Fletcher had passed away. That was the lady's father. And John Fletcher was the last person who actively worked for the Fletcher Agricultural Engineering Company in Winterton. And he collected and kept a lot of his family's archives, as well as loads of local history items. So when we went over to his house, there was an enormous amount of material there, and they were happy for us to take whatever we wanted. And so we took a lot. And so we had at least 10 boxes of paperwork that we took with us. And we did document it sort of like basically, and we got into some of the objects a bit further, but there was still so much to do.
I always say that I'm responsible for looking after that collection. Me and the collections team, we're the curators, but we are only holding it for the people of North Lincolnshire. The collection belongs to them. So it's, our driving ethos is connecting people with their collection and with their heritage and with their history. And so it was really important for us that those communities were sort of enabled to come in and work with the collection and find out what we've got and put their perspective on it as well, because they know, the people out there know a whole lot about the collection that we have that we don't know. Or that we're only scratching the surface of. So bringing their perspectives in really kind of broadened our understanding and our ability to interpret that collection as well for everyone, not just for the people that were working on it.
One of the key things for me has been working with our volunteer team who've been ever so dedicated. We've sort of set up a training programme that over the past 2 years volunteers have really embraced. So there was a lot to learn when we first started the project, from training looking at how we document our collections to museum standards, to different things like digitisation. We've looked at object handling, and I think seeing how volunteers have really embraced those opportunities to carry out that training, and seeing how the team have developed over those 2 years. We've had some of our young volunteers have gone off to study at university and to do masters in museum studies, for example. We've got volunteers who are really interested in conservation, and they've carried out preventive conservation training as part of the project. Seeing how the team have really embraced these opportunities to get stuck in has been really inspiring. The team are also the experts on our local history as well, so I've been learning so much about the collections through their first-hand knowledge and through their experience of living in North Lincolnshire. So the different stories that they've shared as part of the project too, we've really focused on how it can be really empowering to share stories. So some of their own stories even featured in the exhibition.
I think there's lots of things that I have enjoyed working on the project. Been very thankful to have many different opportunities at the museum, from working directly with the collections, both documenting and digitising different things. I've also been able to shine a spotlight on particular objects. So I worked on a curator's choice video for the museum, spotlighting a First World War trench map that I was quite interested in. So yeah, getting to know sort of the behind the scenes of the museum and how everything works has been really interesting.
When the project came along, I've also been doing research, helping with the Maple Peacock section, learning, writing about the legends and histories around 4 locations in the area: St Peter's Church, Botsford Beck, Temple Bath and St John's Well. What I've enjoyed the most is meeting all the people who've been working on the project, as well as going on tours to many other history places like the Fishing Heritage Centre in Grimsby and the Bucklesby House, as well as the talk I did, the lecture about the locations.
So another highlight for me has been seeing how the museum makers really engaged with the project, because that was something that we were really hoping that would happen. They've been so engaged with the project, much more than I think we could envisage at the beginning. They've created interpretation, and the museum makers team have done trails around the museum. They've created more content for exhibitions as well as the main galleries, and it's just brilliant to see them absolutely getting stuck into learning about the collection and interpreting it. And it's really changing, that the way that they work with the collection is really changing how we view the collection as well, and how we view interpretation, and changing how we create our displays. And I think that's really brilliant to see as well. And let's hope they want that their commitment continues and they want to keep working with us, because I love working with them.
It's really important to us here that people can come along and see their stories or their cultures represented when they walk around the museum and see the displays. But it's also really important that when we're doing the work of documenting the ephemera, the photographs, the objects in our collections, that we're including lots of different perspectives too. And that's what we're doing here through collaborative documentation. We have a team of over 30 participants that have been involved in the project, and they've been bringing their own perspectives and lived experiences to this work. And something that we keep on coming back to in this project is that point that all of our stories matter. So some volunteers, for example, have found it really empowering to be able to share their stories through the exhibition, or when we've been carrying out interpretation, we've been reinterpreting some of the displays here. And this is all really important in ensuring that our local history collection is representative and represents different community voices.
I am Sam. I've been doing Marjorie Duff.
Brilliant. So you've been doing some research on Marjorie Duff.
I've been doing research of Marjorie Duff, how she lived in the Fitzroy before the museum.
Brilliant. And what sort of objects have you been looking at to learn about Marjorie's life?
Her diary and Bible and all that good stuff.
Brilliant. And what was it that really interested you about Marjorie Duff?
About her time in the picture before it converted to the museum.
Yes, so Marjorie lived
in
this building when
Yes.
it was a vicarage, didn't she, before it became a museum? Lovely. And what were you doing? Were you reading some diary entries? Were you looking at...
was looking at some diary entry and like doing some like artwork related to her and that.
Brilliant. So what was your process there?
Copying of a Marjorie portrait and doing watercolour and on canvas and that.
Then what did you do with the paintings? What was all this work going towards?
Going all to a exposition. We enjoyed like researching her life and doing my little thing, like putting my artwork out there and all that stuff.
We had some volunteers that looked at the importance of two remarkable men called Napoleon Shenner and Michael Gorn, who owned a store called S&G Stores locally, and many people locally remember that store, S&G Stores, but we shared the story, the biography of these two men who had led remarkable lives, had both been prisoners of war during the Second World War and had moved from Poland to Scunthorpe. And so sharing those stories was really important, and sort of celebrating Polish culture and Polish heritage and the importance of those two men to the local community. So that was another example of how we can focus on community voices and share those.
I'd say it's just been a really nice opportunity to meet everyone, to meet all the museum makers, the volunteers as well, all the staff. It's been lovely to meet everyone, and it's really helped me push my artwork in different directions and kind of think about what I could create differently.
Well, I'm looking to hopefully build a career in history and heritage, so the opportunity of working at the museum has been absolutely invaluable. From the opportunities that I've been granted through this and the people I've got to work with, it's been I couldn't have asked for more.
My experience with the history collection has been just great, working with all the people, learning also other things like the Mabel Peacock estate, her writing plays, as well as looking through the records of many other stuff like the Humber Bridge, the Bluebell Inn, as well as other items that you probably wouldn't even know that was in the archives. It's just been a great time and I enjoyed every minute of it.
So in October this year, we went to the Museums Association conference, and it was particularly exciting because we were able to take some of the volunteers with us, because the North Lincolnshire Museums part of the project had been shortlisted in the Museums Change Lives Awards, Best Small Museum category. So that meant that our project was held up as one of the 9 best projects in the country in a museum during 2025, which is brilliant and absolutely down to the work that the volunteers had put in.
Those awards, it was so important for us that we were recognised, because it's national recognition for this project, and the award recognises museums that are doing work, important work around community well-being and belonging. So that was such a special moment for us.
And it was so great to have Dan, Sharon, Adam and Michael there with us to, at the award ceremony to celebrate that project, and they were there representing the volunteer team, and it was a really special moment having them there for that day and having them there for that award ceremony. We didn't win, but hey, it was brilliant. It was a highlight, absolute highlight of my career really, not just of this project. first thing is obviously all the work that they've done doesn't go away. We've got brilliant articles on the website. We've got more coming through that the volunteers are working on. There's all the work that they've done on documentation remains there in our collections database. So their work is a legacy in itself. But there's all what's really pleasing for us as a museum is that the volunteers want to keep working with us. And so we're sort of remodelling how that's going to work moving forward, because we won't have a project officer who's overseeing it on a day-to-day basis. But there is the fact that they want to keep working and want to keep researching and interpreting the collections. That's really thrilling for us that work won't stop. It will continue. And there's the collection's massive. There's always going to be plenty for them to do.